Hey folks, Sid Smith here with Daily Hypervisor, and today we're talking about Firefly. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about Firefly quite a bit more as Daily Hypervisor shifts its focus to infrastructure as code. We're going to look at how we can get your infrastructures, things like AWS, Kubernetes, Google Cloud, Azure, and some other SaaS-based applications under the management of infrastructure as code, and I'll be using Firefly to do it. And here we can see the Firefly interface. And I have to say, I really love this interface. The look of it, the feel of it, and just everything being where I would expect it to be. In this video, I'm going to give a general overview of what Firefly is and what it does before we jump into actually setting it up, getting it configured, and getting our clouds managed by it. As we can see here, I'm on the Firefly dashboard, and there's a few concepts that I want to cover before we look at other aspects of the product. And those concepts are right here in this main area where we see IAC coverage. And IAC coverage really refers to out of the infrastructure that Firefly discovered out in your cloud environments, how much of that infrastructure is under the management of infrastructure as code. We can see here in this environment, 46.3% of the environment is codified and under the management of infrastructure as code. 48.89% of that infrastructure is unmanaged. And then we can also see that 4.07% of that codified infrastructure has been drifted. And a drift is a difference between the infrastructure as it exists out in the public cloud and what the state file believes it to be. And finally, ghosts. And a ghost is where a resource exists or an asset exists within your state file, but no longer exists out in the actual cloud infrastructure. So your infrastructure as code state file believes it to be there, but it's been deleted or removed by another means. So these are some key concepts that we'll talk through and you'll hear as we move through the product. And let's go ahead and jump right into the inventory. The inventory here is a blended inventory of all of your different data sources or your cloud providers, whether they're cloud providers like AWS, Azure, or GCP, Kubernetes, or a number of different SaaS-based applications that Firefly supports. Initially here, I'm seeing a view of my infrastructure with everything, 271 different resources, but Firefly offers a really extensive and really nice filtering capabilities to help you narrow down the infrastructure or the resources that you're looking at. And what's really nice about it is the information that you see about those resources is contextual to the current filters. What does that mean? If I come over here and select AWS as my only data source that I want to view, you'll notice my metrics have now changed. I've got 74 resources. Now I'm 44.6% codified and 50% unmanaged. My number of drifts, unmanaged and codified, all went down because I'm only looking at a fraction of the infrastructure. If I uncheck that, we'll magically see them all go back. And what's really nice is there's filters for all sorts of things: location, types of assets, tags, owners, infrastructure as code language, state files that manage my resources. That's a very interesting one. Creation year, and a number of other things like governance violations. And so something else really nice in the inventory is being able to break it down and view it based on types. So here I can see all the different types of resources that are out there in the cloud environments. And I could see how many of each of those resources there are, as well as how much of that resource type is actually codified or managed by infrastructure as code. And my filters, if I want to break this down to AWS and just look at AWS resources, I can look here. I've got 6 resources, 6 different security groups, 3 of which are managed by code, or 4, I should say, 1 of which is drifted, 1 unmanaged, and 1 that no longer exists in the environment that is a ghost in my state file. So very, very easy to get some interesting visibility into your environment. And then there's some flags that you'll notice off to the right here. If we go back to all assets, we'll see more interesting things there. But we can start to see where some things might be connected here. There is a policy violation on reliability, no policy violations for misconfigurations or optimization. There is code in the Git repo managing this resource, and no history, no comments, nothing in the GitOps. And then there are some actual relationships there that we can see from the Terraform resource in the state file to the resource itself. Now, looking at your cloud infrastructure is only part of the equation. The other part of the equation is the infrastructure as code that manages it. Firefly will also look at all of your stacks or state files that are managing your infrastructure as code. And here we can see all the different state files that have been detected in this environment. We can get that breakdown by infrastructure as code status. We can also see on what back end those state files are located. But what I really, really like, and this is some great traceability, but is I can also get visibility into the assets that those state files manage. So here I can see this state file is managing 29 assets. And if I click on those 29 assets, I'll get brought back to the inventory. And now I'm looking at just those 29 assets managed by that state file that I was just looking at. Now you can also do that here, right in the inventory to begin with. But I figured I'd show you that these are all clickable as well over in the IAC Explorer menu. You'll also get visibility into what providers are in use in your environment, the different backends that are configured for your environment, modules that you're using to deploy infrastructure with, as well as insights and visibility into misconfigurations that may exist within those modules. Things from low severity all the way up to high severity misconfigurations. We'll take a look at that as we go through the product in more depth. And then those repositories where the code that backends your IAC architecture live as well. So here we can see there's a number of Git repos. I get visibility into modules and where they live within those Git repos, but also what resources we've connected to the code in these Git repos for management. And so here in this Git repo, I can see there's 29 resources being managed from that code. This one happens to have 10. And again, I can jump over and see the resources that are being managed by the code in that repository. So very, very nice visibility. You'll also notice support for other forms of infrastructure as code languages, CloudFormation, Helms, Pulumi, Kustomize, Argo here as well. But additional languages are supported throughout the product in different ways. Another thing to point out is here you also get some extensive filtering abilities. It's when you're looking into your infrastructure as code stacks and your repositories. One of the really nice features here in this environment just doesn't have it to demonstrate, but the unique versions of Terraform running in your environment. If you're unsure of what that is, I highly recommend you do yourself a favor and do a self-service trial. Check out one or two of your different accounts or projects or subscriptions and see what that number looks like in your environment. But we're going to walk through that in some future sessions, so don't go running off doing that too quick. One of the other things I'm going to show you on this introduction, and then the rest will have to wait until we get there, is the governance component. And the governance engine is really nice because it allows you to create your own policies, but leverage the out-of-the-box policies that exist and inspect not only your IAC code files, your HCL or cloud formations that you might have there, but your infrastructure or your resources out in the infrastructure, as well as your state files, and understand, is there any optimization, misconfiguration, or reliability things that you should be looking into. And here we can see on optimization, we have a few opportunities in here to optimize, but it's a pretty optimized environment. It's not that big either. We can see this one here will come with a cost savings, these unattached EBS volumes. But then we also have misconfigurations, and we can see there is a number of misconfigurations or a number of resources or assets with misconfigurations. And then reliability as well. We can see the breakdown on that. So there's a lot more to explore with the governance, as well as a lot of other areas of the product, including this workflows area that is going to be something that is released here really soon. So once that's released, I'll certainly do a session on that as well. But for now, that will be all. Stay tuned for the next session where we're going to actually stand up Firefly and onboard an AWS account. In the meantime, if you want to go explore this environment that I've been demonstrating out of here, you can actually head on over to try.firefly.ai and it'll drop you right in here, and you got read-only access to go and take a look at all that there is to explore, including something that I haven't shown you yet, which is how to codify and use Firefly to help codify resources in your environment. We'll be looking at that in a lot more detail and much more. Stay tuned.